We'd like now to welcome Major General Lori Robinson to the podium. She is the Commanding General of the United States Army Aviation and Missile Command, where she assumed command this past July. And she's going to provide an update on the state of Army aviation sustainment. As the commander, she leads more than 12,000 soldiers and civilians in providing aviation, missile and test measurement and diagnostic equipment sustainment support to the joint warfighter to enable readiness. Please welcome Major General Lori Robinson.
Good morning, and thank you to General Smith and AUSA for hosting this today, as well as all of our military members, retired military members, industry, media, and everyone interested in Army aviation. It's great to be here today. I too see many mentors throughout the room here that have guided me throughout my career. And as many of you know, there's 1 or 2 or maybe 1,000 retired general officers in Huntsville. So I do have 6 former AMCOM commanders in Huntsville that I get to interact with. But I am just coming up on 60 days of command at AMCOM, so I will take all the help I can get, frankly. But it's great to be here today. I am not going to declare myself as a sustainment expert, but I am very honored to represent AMCOM and the thousands of professional maintenance, engineering, and sustainment folks supporting our warfighters around the world. But I do want to give a special thanks also to our industry partners are here. In my first couple months in command, I've done many engagements, and I think it is the teamwork and communication between the Army and our industry partners that are going to continue to move us forward in all of our sustainment efforts. Although we all want and are happy that COVID is over, I think what I've realized here in at least my first few weeks is that it is still a very strained supply chain environment in terms of raw materials and sometimes experience in the workforce. But the best outcomes will arise where we can work together, where we can forecast requirements, stick to those requirements on both sides, talk about challenges early, and chart a path forward, all in support of all the warfighters that Matt Rabin just described, conducting operations all around the world. The other thing I've learned in my first couple months is there is an M in AMCOM. So although I will talk about Army aviation today, I have also, and we are highly invested in all of the air and missile defense programs for the Army as we move forward. So I'm learning a lot. I'm a Chinook pilot by trade, but learning a lot about Patriot, LTAMDS, Raider, Impact 3 missiles right now as well. But as the Army thinks about modernization in the 3 time horizons that Claire described earlier, transforming contact, deliberate transformation, and concept-driven transformation, I think about aviation sustainment in those same 3 timeframes as well. Really our current fleet, our enduring fleet, and then our future fleets, and not just the platforms, but both the soldier and the civilian workforce that will fly, operate, maintain, and sustain those platforms into the future. So as I think about the current fleet, and I look at the supply chains right now, the AMCOM Aviation Logistics Center, that's what they do, right? They run every day down there, integrating as much data analytics as we can to plan, make projections, determine sources of supply, lead raw materials where we can, so that we can get those parts in the hands of the warfighters. We work closely with our partners at DLA Aviation, as well as across the industry, to make that happen. But certainly a fight that goes on every day as it relates to the supply chain. Something we're trying to implement, and we have our depot forward teams out of the Corpus Christi Army Depot, and I'll talk a little bit about OIB modernization in a minute. But trying to fix forward where and when we can. We've done, some things this year, both in Alaska and Korea, trying to integrate new technology for sustainment as we work forward to try to minimize downtime and create that readiness that we need. So I'll just give an example of an AH-64D in Korea. It had a crack in a structural component. The CCAD team went forward with a portable blue light scanner. They sent that file back to CCAD. They produced the fixture on a 3D printer in a polymer format, sent that back to Korea. They fitted on the aircraft, made a few adjustments, sent those back to CCAD to machine the part in metal, sent it forward to, and it fit, you know, I mean, because it was fit exactly to that airframe, and they were able to fix the aircraft forward. Now that still sounds like a lot, and that's, you know, I mean, not, we want to be able to print forward in the future. But with our capabilities that we have right now, it kept that aircraft, most importantly, on the peninsula in Korea, and was able to provide that repair forward. So we're looking to integrate those types of technologies where we can, to save time, save money in transport, and keep readiness at the highest level that we can. But as we think about, and we heard about the distributed U.S. footprints, whether that's in the Pacific, the Middle East, or Europe, you know, and we just heard Matt Brayman talk about all of the FMS military cases around the world. You know, we are also looking forward to what a regional sustainment framework looks like for Army aviation, in conjunction with our allies and partners who are going to be flying, you know, the same platforms that we will as well. So, you know, that is not meant to replace, of course, our organic industrial base. It is meant to complement, and to the point of being able to fix forward around the world. You know, how is the best way to repair that in the most expedient way possible? But the concept of integrated deterrence applies to our ability to sustain as much as it applies to our ability to operate. So being able to regenerate readiness at the point of need is a form of deterrence. So if we exercise that now in competition, then certainly we can scale it in crisis or conflict, because we do know three things: that, you know, it will be a contested environment, we will be under constant observation, and frankly, particularly in the Pacific, we're going to be operating in areas where it's hard to move big things. So we're looking at, you know, how do you sustain forward, use our regional partners, particularly in those that we share common airframes with, to be able to do that around the world. And that's our job at AMCOM, to think about the regional sustainment framework, you know, early in product development, so it's part of that life cycle sustainment plan for the future. As I look at the enduring fleet in basic form, it looks very much like our current fleet, and of course with new addition of unmanned systems, launched effects, and other things. But AMCOM is a life cycle management command, and so life cycles vary. And as I think about it, I said we're going to fly the Chinook for 100 years. I think that's great personally, but you know, we look at how did we get there, or how did we get these airframes to that point, Apache Black Hawk, Chinook, and then how do we get them into the future for the next 3 to 4 decades, you know, as we look forward. And I think about two areas. I think about structural integrity of the airframes, and I think about the open system architecture that will allow us to do targeted modernization efforts in the future. So on the structural integrity piece, you know, many of our platforms are where they are today, because we have invested in programs like reset and overhaul and recap and repair and return programs. And I'm a big believer in preventative maintenance. So I do believe, you know, there's value in those programs. And again, an opportunity where data analytics can help us inform, you know, which aircraft to invest in. So as an example, we use a tool at AMCOM called the Enduring Fleet Management Tool. It scores every aircraft in the Army based on 15 evaluation criteria. And it helps us look across these fleets and make those investments towards the airframes that need the most, vice either time-based or maybe location-based systems that we've used in the past. So, you know, we're really looking to understand how we see the data that comes off of these aircraft and help it drive our decisions in terms of making sure we're touching the right aircraft, so that they they are structurally sound for all the future modernization efforts that will be applied. And the AMCOM Business Transformation Office is a dedicated element inside of my organization that looks to see how we provide those data analytics to do that, not just now, but into the future. And then the second thing I mentioned was an open system architecture, which I think you've heard from everyone so far, and you'll probably continue to hear. But that will allow us to keep up with the speed of technology, whether it's sensors, weapon systems, software, survivability, equipment, but targeted upgrades to the enduring fleets are certainly matters. And I think commonality matters as well, and particularly from a sustainment perspective, as we look at the idea that we're, not going to have large stockpiles or areas forward anywhere where we can find commonality amongst the platforms will certainly keep the sustainment in a better posture. And then as I look at the future fleet, I'm sure Igor Sikorsky was not thinking about crypto mods, composites, and color weather radar as they were designing the Black Hawk. We're thinking about it now, but certainly we're thinking about it, and I know much, much more than those things in the design of future long-range assault aircraft. So as I think about sustainment going into the future for that, I think about ways in which, just as the Army is looking at human-machine integration, how does that apply to aviation sustainment? And whether that's, some of the ideas related to telemaintenance and being able to help our soldiers on the ground fix forward, just procedurally, as well as certification of flight critical parts through additive manufacturing. We certainly want to get there. I don't think we'll be printing transmissions in an aviation maintenance company anytime soon. But I do look at a 3D additive manufacturing multi-laser printer really as a potential third-tier supplier for high consumption parts. If that's, what we need to produce, that's really kind of the sustainment version of man-to-man teaming as I look at it. But certainly all things to consider. And, as I look at the ITEP engine as it comes out, the first engine with actual designed components produced through additive manufacturing and takes 200 parts and makes it into one piece. So that alone, from a sustainment perspective, will again decrease the number of parts and pieces and things that we have to think about moving across wide distances on the battlefields. Inherently. And so one of my other neighbors in Huntsville is the Contested Logistics CFT. And so they're, certainly thinking, as we think more specifically about aviation and missile supply and life cycle management, they're thinking about all the other movement of commodities, but certainly things that Army aviation needs: fuel, ammunition, water, all the other commodity items. So we work closely with them to understand, those concepts as they progress those forward through the Contested Logistics CFT. And then in terms of the organic industrial base, and for Army aviation, that's Corpus Christi Army Depot. I think they are the organic industrial base is the guarantor behind the life cycle sustainment of our current, enduring, and future fleets in the Army. And so for the last few years, I think it's highlighted the value and importance of sustaining the viability of our OIB, and certainly to keep pace of modernization of our depots, arsenals, and ammunition plants with the pace of the modernization of our equipment. So as it is ready to go into depot maintenance or supply, that we're not behind, and that we're right there with those fleets as they move forward. So, I am grateful there's been a $15 billion investment made by Congress and the Army into our 23 facilities and depot facilities in the Army's organic industrial base. And they are definitely part of our overall sustainment strategy that sets us apart from other nations, frankly. And so I was down at CCAD last Monday, and I was there for a groundbreaking ceremony on phase 4 of a 7-phase project to build a new multi-purpose aviation repair facility It's focused mostly on component repair and overhaul for engines and transmissions, but it will certainly bring so much more, as it will provide repair capability for hydraulic components, servos, bearings, blades, and other things. So, that just shows the investment that into Corpus Christi. And so as we think to the future and how we continue to sustain our current platforms as well as our future platforms, we're looking at advances as it moves forward in areas like cold spray. I mentioned blue light scanning, and of course, additive manufacturing of metal parts. But there's also efficiencies that will be gained through the facility, the use of robotics. It's planned for automated storage and retrieval of parts, as well as movement of components to different stages of the production and manufacturing floor at CCAD. And kind of as we continue to look at our best use of man-to-man teaming of our highly skilled artisans, keep them focused on the cognitive tasks that they need to do while the machines do the precision and the airworthiness production of components. So just certainly looking for the way forward, but we're not waiting for a new facility. Things continue to roll, down at CCAD. And one of the things I saw down there, it's just innovation, at its finest. My husband's a retired Army officer. He now takes care of me and golfs. But I bought him one of those little machines where you press the button and his golf cart, goes ahead of him along the golf courses in Huntsville. And I was down at CCAD and I saw a gentleman, and he was doing the same thing on the production floor. He had built his own little cart, and he had his little button, he had his tool bag, he had his materials and everything. And so he's moving it around CCAD, with his little button, just like he would his golf cart. But, those kind of things are just, if we allow the workforce to design their own things. There's some really talented artisans out throughout all of our organizations that will innovate on a daily basis, and that costs us next to nothing. So, I'm all for it. But in conclusion, as we look forward, whether it's the current platforms today or the ones of the future, we all know sustainment is going to be critical, regardless of what theater we are operating in. I again thank everyone for their teamwork together. There's no one entity that can, keep Army aviation solely sustained. So I look forward to certainly working with everyone in the future with an eye towards making sure that our warfighters who are out there, wherever they are in the world, doing whatever our nation asks them to do, have what they need to complete their job safely. So thank you very much.